Hey everyone, this is our week 6 of our place in the world study, spiritual growth study. Today we're going to be talking about our church in the United Church of Christ. Last week we talked about denominations and how individual churches fit into denominations. This week we're going to talk about our denomination and our church in particular. So let's go ahead and get started with there we go, our prayer. Heavenly Creator, God of grace and love, we ask that you be with us, guide us, our thoughts and our spirit, so that we can grow ever closer to understanding our true potential in creation and in you. Help us as we seek to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. In Christ's name, amen. Okay, so like I was saying, today we're going to talk about the UCC and how our church fits into the UCC. The UCC is a little bit different than some denominations. They do not dictate how we run things on the individual level. The way the UCC is supposed to work is as kind of a go-between or a newsletter, if you will, of all the churches, so that we can stay in contact with each other and a basic consensus, like kind of like our government. Without the rules and regulations. In our government, we set representatives, and the representatives decide what is best for everyone, and they put out policies. On the UCC, they put out not policy, but basically they put out what the consensus of everyone is. And that way we can follow that, or we can do something a little bit different. But it's basically the consensus of all the other congregations through their delegations or their delegates. So that's a little bit different than some of the denominations, as I understand them, who not only they dictate, they can dictate where clergy go, and they can actually remove clergy. The only way that the UCC could actually remove someone is if they were doing something completely out of character of the Christian character or the Christian tradition. But still, it would be the church itself that removes that pastor. It would be the church itself. They could just remove that pastor from having the UCC credentials. So a little bit different there. So that's something nice about the UCC, where they don't dictate what we do individually, but they're supposed to actually just facilitate us and let us know what other UCC churches and what Christianity in the whole is doing. Anyway, so the UCC is a blend of 4 American Christian traditions: the Congregationalist tradition and the Christian tradition, the Evangelical and Reformed traditions. Each have left a mark on the U.S. religious and in political history. In 1957, the merger was completed with these 4 groups, and the UCC was born from all these traditions. There was a lot of things going on at that time too. As a matter of fact, everything was put together and ready to be, the merger was ready to take place, until one of the Congregationalist churches wanted to make sure that they would have local autonomy, the stuff that I was talking about. They make their own decisions within. and which if you know the Congregationalist Christian tradition, that is one of the things that they strongly believe in, that each church is responsible and is governed by within. So that took several years to work through that until they finally made sure that was the case. And in 1957, it was actually completed. The merger was actually completed, and the name United Church of Christ was born. The United Church of Christ has always been a progressive church. It would be called a liberal church several years ago, but we call it progressive now. It brings about a lot of from the traditions, and we'll take a look at that right now. The UCC is a progressive denomination. They've always been pushing the church forward in understanding and being loving as Christ loves. In the early, they were the ones to experiment with democracy before democracy actually took place in the United States. The Pilgrims, the Congregationalists, created a model for a just society where everyone had a right to vote, and so they set that up before the government of the United States actually stood up. In the 1700s, there was a stand against slavery. The forebearers of the UCC actually became a lot of them became abolitionists, and was strong against slavery. In 1785 was the first ordained Black American pastor. He was the first Protestant, mainstream Protestant pastor. And that comes from our tradition. First woman ordained in 1855, Anita Brown, the first Black woman since the first century to be ordained as a Christian minister. And first ordained openly gay man in 1972, Bill Johnson. The first ordained open lesbian woman, Diane Darling. And the UCC joins in the march in 1994 for LGBTQAI plus now rights. And the General Synod in 2005 overwhelmingly voted to support marriage equity, allowing for gay and lesbian couples to marry. That was in 2005. You got to remember, it was 2015 before the government of the United States gave that right to all states. So today, the United Church of Christ plays a major role in fighting for social reforms. It is social justice stances bring Christ's message of lifting up the marginalized and creating equality for all. They are, the United Church of Christ is very social justice oriented. All you have to do is go on to some of the pages for the UCC, the websites, and you'll see a lot of content where we talk about social justice. So what can the UCC do for us? The thing is, we hold in common beliefs in the LGBTQAI plus rights and equality. That's one thing that we hold in common. And like I was saying, they being the UCC, they are us, only a gathering of other churches. So in consensus, we've all decided that the rights and equality of the LGBTQ people should be upheld. So that's one thing that they can do. They can keep us informed on issues like this. Not only in like we have someone that's on the Democratic caucus, and he brings forth LGBTQ messages and understanding, but that's from a political standpoint. What are other churches telling us, and what are their understandings and their beliefs, and are they open and affirming? And that's where the UCC comes in. They allow us to talk to those other churches and understand what they're believing and talking about. We hold in common that we need to help the poor and homeless people in our communities. And once again, I call it our sister church over in Tampa. This is a big push for them, as it is for us, to help with the poor and the homeless. I think one of their goals was to buy an old school at one time so that they would have room to facilitate, like a soup kitchen and other things like that. I mean, that's a great thing, and to see one of our sister churches doing something like that, that inspires us as well. And that's part of being connected through the UCC. So that's a way that the UCC is can help us and can do for us. Just recently, the UCC has helped us in our time of need. When COVID struck, we were not prepared to do the live stream every week and what have you. The UCC gave us a grant to buy computers and buy the iPads and other video equipment so that we could actually do our live stream. And now that we're fully back to worshiping in person, we still do the live stream, and it's helped us in reaching people that we wouldn't normally reach. There's so many comments that we get, not only from people that just can't make it that Sunday, but people that don't come to our church in person. They watch it and they come back and they comment in the comments, they send us emails and stuff from our webpage. And all this has been facilitated by a grant that the UCC has given us. And of course, when we bought our building, the UCC was a part in us getting the mortgage loan for the building. And so maybe that is something that might come back around, and they would help us with our next mortgage. Who knows? We'll see what happens in the future.
Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
So, as JFK exhorted the people of the U.S. in the 1960s, it is not what the UCC can do for Faith Family, but what Faith Family can do for the UCC. And then that last quote I really like. It says to the world, don't ask what America can do for you, but ask what we can do together. And I think that should be our motto at Faith Family. Don't ask what the UCC can do for us, but what can we do for the UCC? And the UCC don't ask what we can do for them, but ask what we can do together. And I think that is the main topic, and the main point that I wanted to get across on this is that it is a partnership. It is, they have a broad view, and we have a narrow view. They are looking at all of the UCC, and we are looking at our community or our communities, like we talked earlier in the second session here. But we're focused locally, and they're focused worldly, actually. So, and together we can spread the world, the gospel of love to the world that desperately needs grace, forgiveness, reconciliation, and most of all, love. that's basically what I wanted to say. So is there any topics of discussion or something that jumped out at anybody that you wanted to ask or say? I think that's one of the things that, yeah, the idea that we talk about them being not us not being under them. So why do we send them money? We send them money so they can do what they do. You know, we have to support them. If it was in the secular world, we'd call it our taxes. You know, each individual member pays a membership due so that the actual UCC can continue to do what they do on their level of being the go-between between all of the churches and having the committees and the councils and the synods so that we can be informed and that kind of thing. So it's not that we it's not a big price to pay for the service that they're giving back to us. I know I've heard a lot of talk that saying they don't do anything for us, but they do a lot for us. We just don't know it. We don't see it directly, I should say. And because of that, we get caught up in our own little world, our own church work here, and we don't see the bigger picture, if you will. And the bigger picture is knowing what other churches are doing and being a part of the other churches in the UCC. I think, like I said, I think it's a small price to pay for the services that they give to us and the information and just being connected to something bigger than ourselves. You have anything, Cindy?
I think it was interesting. I just think that, like you were saying, sometimes we get hyper fixated on what we're doing in our church, and we really need to look at the UCC as our impact on a global community. And so if UCC can impact the globe and regions and conferences can impact the states and the country, and then our churches can impact our communities and our congregates can impact their immediate world. I think that's the way we really have to look at it. It's just a building step. And the UCC is part of that because it facilitates us being part of something so much bigger, you know. And I think about what the UCC did down in Southwest Florida in Immokalee with the immigrant workers and how they were able to help them in a really time of crisis. And that's something that individual churches couldn't have done. We needed the global and the regional stance of the UCC in order to make that happen. So that's where things like this are really important, and that's kind of how we have to really look at it.
Yeah. And yeah, there's somebody else. There's something else. The idea of being part of, like I say, being part of something bigger than, you know, there's I hate to use power, but there's power in numbers, kind of thing. So that. Anything else? One of the things that I don't know if you realize this, but just us by having instead of the community church or the faith family church or what have you, having the UCC after that puts us in a directory. And some people have actually contacted us through seeing that we are a UCC church. And so our name is out there because of that. I think what gets me about the whole thing is uh, I see a lot of churches that are just individual churches that are out there, and they do their own thing, and they're they're making a difference in their small community, but it's almost like they don't want to be they just want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to be a solution to change the whole world. And because of that, they think that they're doing good. They go to church, they raise a food kitchen, a food pantry, and they take care of they do a clothes drive, and they feel like they're making a difference. But what kind of a difference could they make if they would team up with a couple other churches? And then the impact, it gets bigger. I mean, you don't have to be, go to those other churches and be completely involved in those churches to actually share love and Christianity between them. So I think that is a mindset that we're going to stand over here, and we're going to be individuals, and we're going to do our own thing. And yeah, we're going to make a splash in the water. Might not be a big splash, but we're going to make one. It's kind of isolationist, and it's kind of anti-Christianity, because Christianity is not about, it's about people, and the more people, the more love. Unfortunately, in our world, if the people, it's not about love, it's about me. And that's the kind of thing that I see. If a church was an individual person and they want to just go and do whatever they want to do, they want to be an individual, it's about them and not about the bigger picture of Christ and changing the world to be a more grace, forgiveness, reconciling, and loving place. So I'm done preaching. I'm sorry. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? Comments, concerns, complaints? All right. Well, I thank you. I hope this helps you get a better grasp of how we at Faith Family are in a relationship with the UCC. And as JFK said, together we can make a bigger impact on the world. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for showing up, and we'll see you next time when we talk about our place in the world, Faith Family's place in the world. All right. See you later. Goodbye.